Hey creators, welcome back to Creator Best Life for a brand new video. For those of you that are new here, hi, I'm Kimani, and I'm very excited today because this is day 3, part 3 of my series, Writing a Feature in 90 Days. Can we do it in 3 months? It is possible because I do it every year. 4 times. So if this is your first time meeting me, I would suggest that you pop into episodes 1 and 2 of this series first and then come back. But here's a little recap. Episode 1, we developed our story, our plot, our themes. We talked a little bit about our characters. Episode 2, we discussed more about our characters, created more of their backgrounds, their breakdowns, and then finished our synopsis, our plot, all of our themes, making sure that everything is correct and ready. And then we also did world building. Today, we're getting into the meat of it, the hardest part, outlining. Outlining is something that a lot of us have always hated to do. I can't say that outlining is fun for me. I will say that. I want to get right into the nitty gritty. Let's get the dialogue. Let's get the drama, okay? But how are you going to get from point A to point B? That is outlining. Outlining is very important because you need to know what's going to happen in each scene. You need to know what's going on with each of your characters, what their desires are, what their needs are, and then what their arcs are. How does the character change throughout the episode, the movie, the season, okay? So because I'm doing a romance drama / coming of age drama, I'm going to give you an example and step you through an outline process of a romance / coming of age project. And that way you can follow along and get your own feature written. So I know I have to do this. I really encourage you to stay a while, watch a few of my other videos, watch the rest of the series. There are more series coming up. We're going to do some pitching, building our pitch decks, and it's going to be a good time. I would really love it if you subscribed and joined the fam. And if you are indeed somebody that wants to get your script done in 90 days, just keep watching. All right, so back to why outlining is important. I'll tell you why. A 90-minute film, which is roughly 90-minute pages, you do not want to go into that blindly. You want to have a system, a blueprint, a roadmap, because you will get overwhelmed. Outlining also prevents mid-script burnout. That means when you get to Act 2, you're not sitting up looking like, okay, where do I go from here? I've been there. Don't do it. It's hard enough to get through Act 2 and Act 3 to get to Act 5. You don't want to screw yourself over by not having your roadmap. And I'll be real, you've probably heard this before and experienced this in school, but outlining does not have to be permanent. You can flip things around, you can move things around, you can kill your darlings, you can add some things in, you can have somebody look at it and give you feedback. The script is your oyster. So let your outline live, let it breathe, let it come to its own in its own time. And because I come from film and TV backgrounds, we have to do an outline the way that you would do it if you were working on network television. And that means you need to have your slug lines. You have to have down what each scene is going to be like. That means interior, coffee shop, day. So what happens in this scene? I'll give you an example from Burning Sage, which is my pilot TV show that I've been talking about. Interior, coffee shop, day. Sage nervously waits for Roman. He arrives, but with someone else. That's all we need to know right now. We don't need to get deep into each individual interaction. Doing our outline this way, scene by scene, helps us visualize the pacing, understanding how the scene is going to flow. You can see your act breaks early on versus when you're actually in final draft. And you can prevent huge plot holes. You will be able to see what is going on in each scene and why that scene is important to help you get to the next scene. If there are scenes that you do not need, that is a moment where you take them out. If there are scenes where you see a hole and you're like, well, why is this happening? What did we set up in the previous scenes? If there is no scene that helps you set up the scenes that are following, that means that you have to go back and write that scene. But you're going to be able to easily visualize that when you are in your outlining process versus when you are writing draft 1. Y'all ready to do some beats? Viewers, myself, love clear beats. It just helps your brain make sense of this story. All right, so boom, Act 1. You have to set up your world. What does your world look like? What is that opening scene? You have to write that out. What do we see first? This is what the character's life looks like before change. Who are they? What does their world look like? Do they have family around? Are they naive? This is setting up the beginning of what their arc is going to be. Beat 2 is what your main character, your protagonist, wants. In a romance or coming of age project, they usually will want love, independence, maybe identity, escape, a sense of belonging, friendship, chosen family. In our case, beat 3 will be where we meet our love interest. This is the spark. And I think something that's important about when this happens is that our love interest has to change the way that our protagonist views the world. How are they challenged? Our next beat, which is probably our most important, the inciting incident. Most people talk about this all the time, but it is really what sets your character, your protagonist, on their journey. It forces our story forward. Maybe they have to move, they change schools, they get a new job, maybe an unexpected reunion, the death of somebody they love. After that unfolds, we are now in Act 2. And I split Act 2 into two separate categories. Act 2A is the falling. This is when the romance begins. So they're bonding, they're connecting. You can even add some montages in there. That'll be fun. You really want to have them talking, exploring each other, expressing their vulnerabilities, really digging deep. But maybe not that deep, because that could be the problem later on in the story. So that would be our fifth beat. Beat 6 would be our midpoint shift. This is where the relationship is starting to feel real for the characters and for the viewers. For example, they could have their first kiss, a confession, a moment of feeling trust with the other person. At this point in our story, our audience should feel like this relationship is going to work out. But the fun point about writing is we get to shake that up. Okay, so the second part of Act 2, which I'm calling Act 2B, is the breaking. So beat 7 would be our internal conflict. Our protagonist is going to show some of their flaws, some of their vulnerabilities that are not so sweet and cute. For us, some of those flaws would reveal themselves as a fear of vulnerability, self-sabotage, and or choosing comfort over growth, because that is very human of them. And it's perfect for a coming of age project. So because of that, beat 8 would be our breakup. And that's because romance stories almost always have a breakup. It just makes sense. So there's a misunderstanding, maybe a betrayal. Life circumstances make them drift apart. Think The Notebook when Allie is going back to school. And one thing that I like to remind myself when I am thinking about romances is that if your character never loses something, you won't feel like the reunion is earned later on. Next, we're in Act 3. And I know I mentioned earlier that we had Act 2, 3, and 5 and stuff. I'm literally thinking about in TV because I write TV most of the time. We need to think in movies, and that is quite often in 3-act structure. There are several different act structures that you could use, but I like to use a 3-act structure for film. So Act 3 would be our moment to start our growth. Beat 9 would be about self-realization. In this beat, our protagonist is really starting to fully understand who they are, what love means to them, and how much it takes to have it. In Beat 10, we'll typically have our reunion or a final choice to make. Does our character fight for love, let go of love, or do they choose themselves? No matter what, our character should be different, and that's what I was referring to when I talked about our character arc. Who are they after all of this has transpired? So now that we know how our outline is supposed to flow for this type of project, let's make our own, and I will show you how mine turned out. Okay guys, so here is my outline. I didn't include all of the beats just because I wanted to make sure for the sake of this example that I put everything necessary for each of the larger beats for each act. So yeah, this is a great way to help you initially start your outlining process and come up with your beats and specific storyline moments that are important to help move your story along. If you are a complete novice, here are some quick tips for you to help your outlining process go smoother. Definitely try not to over outline. You don't want to do too much. I would say do between 20 and 40 scenes for this type of project. You also want to think in emotional shifts. Each scene should change something for your story. One of my favorite parts is let your characters guide you. They will tell you what the story is. They'll tell you what their motivations are, who they are, and what they're going to do and say. It'll start to make sense and you'll really just get in this flow. But listen to your characters. They know what they're doing. And lastly, done is better than perfect. You can't edit something that you have never written. So put the pen to the paper, get out of your own way, and just write something. It doesn't have to be good, but you'll never get good if you don't start. And now that our outline is done, we actually get to start writing the draft, which is going to be so much fun. We get to throw in our dialogue and truly visualize what the scene is going to look like and how our characters are fully introduced. So in the next episode, I'll show you my full writing routine using the outline we have just created and how I'm approaching writing this feature in 90 days without feeling burnout, because that's easy to do when you have work and family and friends and hobbies and all the things, and you just have other project ideas that you want to get to. But this is truly something that works for me every quarter of the year. I have been doing this for years. It is something that works. It is a surefire way that works. It keeps you on track and it makes sure that you have your finished, polished project in time. After we get our first draft, I'm hoping to show you what it's like to make edits to the second draft. I typically like to have a few sets of eyes on my project to give me feedback before I go back in. And I usually feel like after I've written, I've looked at it so long that I don't even want to think about that project. So I move on to something else just to cleanse the palette a little bit. But for this case, for educational purposes, I will show you guys up front what it is like to update our second draft and third draft and whatnot, whatever draft it is. And you can see what that process is like once you finish your first draft. And then I encourage you to stay and subscribe so that you can see what it's like once you have your script, how you can package it, create your pitch deck, and all the documents that you would need in order to pitch your project to somebody, and also create your pitch script. I feel like that would be a lot of fun and super helpful, and this is something that I would have really truly loved when I was just starting out. So if you have any friends that would be interested in that, also invite them in. I hope that this process was fun and helpful for you guys. It really has been such a joy and so much fun and useful and helpful for myself as well. So let me know in the comments what else you want to see. If you have any questions, you can always DM me. I'm a creator everywhere, and I can't wait to dive into writing this script. I will see you guys in a brand new video real soon. Until next time, go create your best life.